Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Murfreesboro.com podcast. We're already off the bed.
It's all good. It's all good. It's Monday.
It is Monday, yes. Yeah. So, but all right, we have a great guest today, and Karl Daigle, the man, the myth, the legend, local firefighter, CEO, entrepreneur, man of many talents. So, and you brought props.
Yes.
You're the first one ever to bring props. So this is cool. We're going to try something new. But Karl, you now it's Code 1 Safety.
Yes,
it was Code 1 CPR.
Yes, sir. It
right?
was. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
When did you rebrand that?
So it's June of 2022. We had been Code 1 CPR for approximately 12 years or so. And of course, we led with CPR training, AED training, and first aid. But over the years, we progressively started getting increased requests for additional safety stuff. Fire extinguishers, first aid kits, AED, all that good stuff. And so the title Code 1 CPR kind of put us in a box where all we did was CPR, whereas safety, we decided we can operate under the umbrella of safety, and anything offered under the safety we can do. So. Okay.
Cool. Well, before we get into that and all this, let's learn about you. You're a firefighter.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you for your service. That's awesome. How long have you been a firefighter?
With Murfreesboro for over 18 years.
How about before Murfreesboro?
I was with the Navy as a shipboard firefighter for 4 years.
Awesome.
And volunteered for Rutherford County for 3. So.
How have I known you this long and not know that? That is awesome. Okay. Well, again, thank you for your service.
Yes,
That's wonderful. So why firefighting? What got you into
That's
it?
a good question. I guess I was just drawn to it. I remember watching Backdraft when I was in high school.
All right. Yeah, I remember that.
My mother and I watched it, and she was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And it's just something that no one in my family's done except for me. So I can't really say it's in the family, but you get to, every day you go to work, there's a possibility you can help someone in a different way. It's not all fires anymore. Yeah. We do, 80%, 90% of call volume is medical. So I'm also a paramedic. So we do a lot of questions we'll get is, why does a fire truck show up whenever we call for, chest pain? Yeah. For instance, we have a cardiac monitor on our truck. We've got drugs that we can administer for chest pain. Any kind of trauma calls we can mitigate. Car wrecks, we've got the tools that'll cut you out of a vehicle. And also we got the personnel that can bandage you up if you're injured. So we do a lot of things.
Very cool. Okay. Wow. You're a man of many talents. That's awesome. Maybe we should start with what you don't do. How's that? So, and you have a daughter.
Yes,
right?
sir.
She's 21, you said?
21. Yes.
God, when did I met her? What? I don't know. I've known you for like 15 years or something now. It's been a while. So
she's no longer tiny, but she's still my little girl though.
And for those, go give her a hard time. She works at Alley on Main.
The Alley on Main, yes. She's a server there.
She's a server?
She'd love to see you, yeah.
Go give her a huge tip, everybody watching, okay? That's awesome. But, well, cool, man. Well, again, thank you for coming on. I think it's a wonderful thing you're doing with all this, and it was perfect timing when we spoke because of the incident with Damar Hamlin from the Bills and what happened to him. And actually, for those that don't know, if they've been living under a rock, it's been all over the place. What exactly happened to him? And actually, how did that happen exactly?
So they really haven't pinpointed the exact cause, but commotio cordis is what they're saying that may have happened because he took that blunt force trauma to the chest wall. Okay. So your heart has its own electrical conduction system that stimulates mechanical contraction, right? Yeah. So if you get hit in the chest at a certain time, it could interrupt the electrical conduction system and throw you into what's called ventricular fibrillation, which is indicative of sudden cardiac arrest. Oh, wow. But that's usually specific to youth athletes, especially in baseball. If you get a line drive hit. Oh, yeah. And it's usually a diagnosis of exclusion. So they're really still trying to figure out why that happened. So, but what we do know happened is he went into cardiac arrest. Yeah. And so a lot of people will hear the term cardiac arrest and heart attack and use them interchangeably, which are two completely different things. Yes. Oh, okay. So cardiac arrest, going back to the electrical conduction system, if it gets unorganized, it'll go into either ventricular fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia. Both rhythms do not pump blood. And so if you think about a seizure patient, how do they present to you? They're kind of shaking, right? Yeah. They're, convulsing. A seizure is a result of unorganized electrical activity within the brain. It manifests in a lot of shaking, right? So cardiac arrest is unorganized electrical activity within the heart. The heart convulses, if you think of it that way. I got you. It's doing this instead of doing the lub dub, where the ventricles squeeze and send blood throughout the body. So When your heart's sitting there, all the blood in your circulatory system is static. It's not picking up oxygen, and it's not dropping it off to the brain tissue and the heart.
Okay.
Left untreated, that person will die.
Oh, gosh.
So if you think of sudden cardiac arrest, think of electrical problem. A heart attack is a plumbing problem. If you think about your circulatory system being a closed loop system with your heart being the pump, the veins and arteries being the plumbing, and the fluid being the blood. Gotcha. So your heart has a bunch of plumbing in it, all the veins and arteries. And if one of those gets clogged with, plaque buildup, a thrombus or a clot, it'll reduce blood flow to the heart muscle. And that's what you get the chest pain from. There's cardiac tissue dying. And so someone could be awake and alert and oriented and talking to you and experiencing a heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
Whereas cardiac arrest, they're going to be unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse. Huge difference between the two. And so a heart attack, can deteriorate into cardiac arrest depending on where on the heart that the tissue is dying. But cardiac arrest, the only treatment is early CPR and early defibrillation.
Yeah.
These AEDs, you place it on the chest, and it's looking, if you can think about the pads, looking interior to that heart muscle and looking for the electrical conduction system. See what's going on in there. Those two rhythms I mentioned earlier, ventricular fibrillation and ventricular tachycardia, present, and they look very specific. And that's what this thing is looking for. Okay. If it finds one of those rhythms, only then will it arm itself to deliver a shock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like a smart system.
Yes. And so that's why the FDA approved to have these placed in the general public, because you cannot hurt somebody with them. Okay. One of the myths about AEDs is that you can hurt someone. If you place this AED on someone and you hit the shock button, what if they don't need it? Yeah. It won't even arm itself to deliver a shock if they do not need it.
Wow.
So, yes, that's why, you'll see next time you go into a local shopping center, look for an AED. In the airport, you'll see them all down the concourses because they are the only treatment for cardiac arrest.
So what in regards to these, what is the law now with these? Like, you have to have so many per building or so many?
It's a good question. How does that work? And so the legislation governing placement of AEDs is dependent upon the state you're in. Okay. So in Tennessee right now, the only legislation, and it's very minimal, which we're trying to get changed, is that if you're a dental office that practices sedation dentistry, you have to have one. Okay. If you have them in your school, you have to have them close to the gymnasium area. Okay. Because cardiac arrest in athletes is pretty prevalent. Okay. And that's a whole nother topic. Because you think about kiddos, you don't think about them being predisposed to cardiac arrest. There's a push nationwide right now to start getting these student athletes screened for cardiac arrest potential. And so, and besides that, the other law is if you have an AED in your building, you have to make sure there's someone doing, it's like a fire extinguisher. You got to do monthly checks on it, visual inspection. All you're really looking at is to ensure that the AED is in working order. It's clean. You've got the power button, which on this Zola AED here has got a green check mark. Lets me know that it's good to go, that the batteries are good to go, which that would not be green if the batteries are bad. Yeah. And the pads are within date. Most pads last for about 2 years or so. The reason they go bad is because there's a gel on the backside of the pads that when you place on the chest has to soak through the pores of the skin to adhere properly. Okay. If you got 6-year-old pads, they're not going to stick properly. You're not going to deliver that shock that that patient needs. Okay. Well, when you talk, so if it's not charged or the battery's not there, like you said, it's just a visual inspection, but is that something like a fire extinguisher? We can go up to home, homes. God bless Lowe's or Home Depot. There we go. Lowe's Depot.
Yeah, we can go to Lowe's Depot and pick one up. Can you pick one of these up, or does somebody like a trained professional like yourself have to come?
So yeah, we are a vendor for these. We sell any and all makes and models for AEDs. You really would want to get with. Now you can buy them online all day long. Okay. But the problem is you don't really have the local person that has the after the sale service, right? If you've got an issue with your AED, who do you talk to? Yeah, I got you. And so all of our Code 1 was really founded on the principle that anyone who teaches for us has to actively be in emergency services, whether it be a firefighter, paramedic, a nurse, someone who's performed CPR before and actually used one of these. And so the other layer of customer service you get is whenever you're purchasing from us is that we actually know how these work. We've used them before, and we can kind of troubleshoot some of these things with you if need be. Gotcha. And so, we you can't buy them at Lowe's Depot, though.
Yeah, Lowe's Depot. I'm going to use that from now on, Lowe's Depot. Okay, gotcha. Now, what was this in the blue wire?
So this one is just a trainer right here. So this is actually what we use in our CPR and AED classes. Yeah. It's It looks a little bit different than this one, but it operates the exact same way. And I say that because there's a lot of different manufacturers of AED products, but they essentially all do the exact same thing. You turn it on, follow the voice prompts, and press the buttons whenever it tells you to. Again, they've taken the guesswork out of saving a life, really. So you say you took a CPR class a long time ago. Let's say it's been a year and a half. How squared away are you going to be at remembering the steps doing that? And so I'll operate this trainer if you'd like, and it'll give you the voice prompts of everything. And
Go for it.
Well, this is the live AED I'll place right here.
Okay.
And so let's say you're in a class and you actually get the hands-on practice of operating an AED. Everyone gets their own mannequin and an opportunity to train with this AED trainer. So before you place an AED on someone, we got to pre-qualify them, is like I like to say.
Okay.
They're unresponsive and not breathing.
Okay.
And so the way we check for responsiveness is, hey, are you okay? Shake and shout. If they're not responsive and you look for normal rise and fall of the chest for at least 5 and no more than 10 seconds, they qualify for an AED.
Okay.
And so remember what I said earlier, if you place the AED on them and they don't need it, it's not going to shock them. So
that's when it detects their heart, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
So how long, you said you took a CPR class, were they teaching pulse checks?
Yes, it's been many years actually since I took it.
It's been probably 5 or 6 years that the American Heart Association omitted for the lay responders the pulse check.
Okay.
A couple of reasons. Number one, if it's been a long time since you took a CPR class and you're not a healthcare provider and you're not in the habit of palpating for a carotid artery on someone that's probably warm, and you're like, I'm not sure if I feel it or not.
Yeah.
You may hesitate to, number one, do CPR, call 911 or use the AED. And so their stance is it's better to place an AED on someone who doesn't need it than not on someone who does.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
So you're kind of, again, you can't hurt them. Yeah. Right. You're placing, and if they wake up, you're like, okay, just let me take these off. It may hurt a little bit where you give them a little bit of a waxing on the chest, but that's about it. So, all right. Start from number one. Let's turn it on.
Adult patient.
Oh, nice.
If the patient is a child, press the child button.
So this is an adult we're working on.
Remove clothing from the patient's chest.
So remove the clothing.
Open packet and apply pads on the patient's bare skin.
If you'll notice, there are pictograms on the AED pads.
Pads
Gotcha.
shown in the pictures. Press pads firmly on skin.
Okay.
Apply pads as shown. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Shock advised. Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear. Press the flashing shock.
I'm clear, you're clear, we're all clear. Shocking.
Shock delivered. Begin CPR.
Wow.
Here comes your metronome.
Oh, wow.
So that's how fast you need to be doing your compressions.
Okay.
So for us guys with no rhythm,
right.
we can stay on task, right?
Speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I definitely don't. No.
Salsa dancer, John.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
Give 2 breaths.
So 30, give 2 breaths.
32 breaths. Okay.
And then we'll start again.
Okay.
And so it continues to do that for 5 rounds, right? 30 and 2, 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 which equates to about 2 minutes of CPR.
Okay.
It'll say stand clear, reanalyzing heart rhythm. And so in 2-minute intervals, it's going to start, it's going to reanalyze because the first time we shocked them, it may have put that heart back into a normal rhythm.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if it detects a normal rhythm, it'll say no shock advised.
Okay.
But if they're in persistent ventricular fibrillation, just means their heart has not converted, it'll shock them again. And so that's now one thing we teach as well. Did you heard it shocked? In reality, the patient will move a little bit because you are sending electricity through the thoracic region here. So
how much of a shock is that?
It's about 120, 140 joules.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's like a kick in the chest from a horse.
Pretty much. Yeah. And so if you think about that heart doing this, that electricity is trying to control alt delete the heart. Best way I can put it. And what we're hoping that it does, it goes back into its normal rhythm. Yeah. Because the ventricular fibrillation is an arrhythmia where it's not, again, it's doing this. We're wanting it to go back to boom, 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 boom. And so that's about it, man. And you place it and you see you follow the voice prompts. I wanted to show you this. So a lot of AEDs will have a little pouch.
Yeah.
Not many know what's in it, but it said remove clothing from the chest, right? If I'm wearing this and an undershirt, how am I going to get that off?
Yeah, I got you.
So we've got some little goodies in here.
Okay.
In the form of trauma shears.
Nice.
Right.
Okay.
We can just remove that because you want to place this on the bare chest, of course.
Yeah.
You heard it say give 2 breaths if you feel comfortable and know how to give 2 ventilations. Here's a barrier device.
Got it.
That you can put on there and give you 2 ventilations.
Okay.
On that topic, now, if you do not have a barrier device, there's a thing called hands-only CPR. And so a frequent question we get is, well, I heard we're not giving breaths anymore.
That's what I was going to ask,
You do, but if, let's say, it's someone you've never met before, or it's a car wreck, and you don't know this person, you don't want to put your mouth on someone you don't know, hands-only CPR is still viable. Studies were conducted that in the moments following cardiac arrest, there's still enough oxygen in the bloodstream. If you do compressions, you're still going to
keep the blood going.
Absolutely. And that's the whole goal. High quality, effective compressions and defibrillation is what is going to save them.
I've heard before from several people that it's very normal to like break a rib or something. Is that true? Or
I don't know if I'd say normal.
Or it happens.
It can happen. And I've heard people say, if you're not breaking ribs, you're not doing it right, which is not accurate whatsoever. Now, of course, the age and weight of your patient's going to come into play to that, right? If you have a very little old lady or male who's kind of osteoporosis is set in, there's probably a higher chance that you're going to break a rib. Doing compressions on you, I'm probably not.
Oh gosh. Okay. So, like, if you were to break a rib, does that stop the process, or does
no, sir. Good question.
Keep going.
Yes, because generally, so you have your sternum right here, and you have cartilage that comes off of it before it turns to bone.
Got it.
A lot of times that's where it's popping. So if you can think of this, if you do break a rib and they survive, I'd be fine with a broken rib with a saved life. And so it's better to have a broken rib and alive than, but it's a good question because you will feel changes sometimes in the chest wall. Yeah. When you're doing those compressions, it actually sounds like you're popping your knuckles, but muffled, but right in the chest wall. It's a weird sensation for the first time. You never forget the first time you do CPR on someone. Yeah. And you feel that. So it is something to be aware of.
Long story short, many years ago, I think I told you this. Yes, I had to do CPR on somebody on the side of a highway many years ago. And thankfully it was weird because all that stuff kind of comes back to you so fast. And I remember in the moment, it was really slow. Yeah. When in actuality, the whole thing, I mean, it felt like a day. And then it was like 2 minutes, or something. But there were actually some guys that came over to help that had, I found out later, had just literally like a month prior got CPR certified.
Oh, wow.
So there was 2 guys and they helped, we were doing compressions and, stabilizing his head, holding all this stuff. And he's alive to this day. So that's great.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, it was wonderful. But I do remember that did feel weird. Yes. I remember because you're doing this thing with your hands and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa. And just, but it was all slow motion too. It was I guess the adrenaline or something.
Yes,
but,
everything kind of slows down.
And so anyway, sorry, random
and that's good. I mean, it's a great thing. And it's just another reason why, draws attention to CPR and AED awareness. Yeah. I mean, it had been a while since you had taken the class, but you still it kicked back in. Yeah. And if you have a good instructor that can kind of bridge the gap between the knowledge base and the actual application of it, then the theory and application is probably going to help you a lot more. And just getting on that chest, compressing hard and fast at a rate between 100 and 120 compressions a minute.
Oh wow!
So a couple songs. It used to be just Staying Alive. Yeah. And then now it's Baby Shark, which if you really want to annoy people, just go around singing that while you're doing CPR on someone.
Wow, but that would be something you'd never forget. I'll say that.
It's just stuck in my head.
Right? No kidding. But so you teach the classes,
yes, sir,
and things like. So do you go around to businesses, or do you have an office that you do it at, or how does that work?
Good question. So we do both. We have an office on South Church Street where we hold open enrollment classes. So. Nice. Let's say you're we get a lot of MTSU nursing students because they have to have what's called basic life support for healthcare provider certification as a prereq for nursing. And so let's say they get their prereqs and they look us up online, see our schedule, and they can register it individually. Yeah. New mom and dad, we get those. We have both healthcare provider classes and general public classes. And so they can do that, or we also go on site. So let's say your business has, 5 people or 105 people.
Okay.
We can come and get all that done.
Very cool.
Nashville Electric Service and Middle Tennessee Electric, we both, we certify them, General Mills.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we do a lot with the local community as far as training people. We have classes Monday through Saturday, really. Sunday's usually the only day we're off. We have taught on Sundays for special requests. But, we have a pretty wide open schedule, too.
Okay.
So.
Man, I need to come take that class.
Come on over, man.
It has been at least a decade.
Come on over. We'll get you taken care of.
No, that'd be awesome. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I need to do that. Maybe we can come in and document it.
Hey,
show it off.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm down. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Deal.
Nice.
Deal.
Well, now this may be a dumb question. You have to excuse me. I'm just naive with some of this stuff. But it's an adult versus a kid. Are there differences? Do you have to be careful?
Actually, it's a very, very good question. So the 3 segments that we teach is adult, child, and infant.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, infant too? Okay.
Yeah. So there's infant CPR, which is a little bit different, which they've got smaller mass on their chest, right? Surface space. So you're going to do 2 fingers or 2 thumbs on their chest.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
A child, if it depends on the size of the child too. Some of the kids these days, like my 12-year-old looked like she was 20 when she was 12.
I know a 12-year-old right now who's about 6'2".
Yes.
Yeah.
So you would treat him as an adult.
Got it.
So a smaller child, let's say 1.5, 2 years old, you can use one hand.
Okay.
In the center of the chest to do compressions.
Okay.
Versus 2 hands for an adult.
Got it.
So you can see it graduates from 2 fingers, 1 hand to 2 hands.
Okay. Got
Infant, child, adult.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some differences there, but the rate is going to be the exact same, 100 to 120 compressions a minute. Your depth for a child is about 2 inches, where for an adult it's at least 2 inches.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And for an infant, it's about 1.5 inches or a third of the depth of the chest from anterior to posterior. So thing about infants, you said something about being careful with them. Infants, their bones haven't completely calcified yet, right? They're still real pliable.
Oh.
And so they're harder to quote unquote break. Okay. Right. And so when you're doing compressions, they rebound a lot easier. Okay. Older adults, like we talked about a minute ago, 70s, 80s, 90s, their chest wall is going to be pretty fragile. Yeah. They've been on Earth for so long. They're going to have some degeneration there. But I got you. A lot of the time is people don't compress hard enough. Yeah. In fear of hurting someone. Okay. But if you're doing CPR on someone, that's pretty much as bad as it can get. Yeah. So, okay. Get it. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So, actually going on that, like what kind of advice do you have for people that I've heard so many times, like people are afraid to do something or they don't want to step in and, you just see a crowd of people around somebody. It's like somebody do something. That's actually funny you mentioned that. It's one of the determining factors in why I started teaching CPR was I responded to a call and the individual had passed out in the middle of a store entranceway and there was probably 15, 20 people standing around the gentleman was purple, right? Really? And so lack of awareness, lack of wanting to step in fear of being sued. And so there are good Samaritan immunity provisions that will protect you if you are responding in good faith. Yes. Okay. And so that will protect you. The responders are protected. So the gentleman that was part of it. And the second reason was Hannah, my 21-year-old, she's had 4 open heart surgeries. Wow. And so at the time where she was going to school, they really didn't know. I asked a question, just joking around. I was like, hey, y'all know how to use that AED? And that, they really didn't, for lack of a better term. And so they were, the teachers and whatnot were around my kiddo more than I was during the day. And I started doing that. And it's been a long journey, but it's, Hannah's gotten involved with it. She used to work for the company for a little while for the social media side of the house. But you would never know she's had any surgeries to this day. But I didn't know till just now. Yeah. And she, and, she kind of keeps that one close to the chest, no pun intended, but she just wants to be treated like, like normal, and you would never know. She's strong, athletic. She doesn't let her hold her back. But going back to that, people, they're afraid to get involved, or it's kind of one of those deals where it'll never happen to me. Yeah. But most cardiac arrests occur in the home. Oh gosh. Okay. Yes. And so a big push is becoming home defibrillators, right? I've had people reach out to us, can we buy an AED for the home? Absolutely. Great. Absolutely. Okay. And so you could do 1 or you could do 50 of these. Oh, right? Absolutely. Okay. Got it. Yes. 100%. But people just, you don't know how you're going to react in an emergency till it really hits you in the face. Yeah. Right. And so some people will jump at it. Some people won't. But I tell people all the time, even if you're not the one doing the compressions or assessing, you can call 911. You can give them the correct street address, because a lot of times when we arrive on scene, especially at a large facility, they don't have someone out there directing us to where they are, we don't have a clue where they're going.
Gotcha.
Or even in a house, like let's say, I don't know, 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dark road. Their houses aren't numbered very well.
Yeah.
We can't see. If someone could usher us in, that always helps. But
Okay.
I say it time and time again, it's usually the actions of the bystanders pre-arrival that has the biggest impact on survival rates, right? And neurologically intact.
Yeah.
They leave the hospital and their quality of life is the same as it was prior to the arrest.
Yeah.
So, with cardiac arrest, you got to worry about brain tissue dying over time because time is death.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they're not getting oxygen to the brain. And just like the heart muscle, it'll start dying. And so if you've got certain parts of your brain that are not functioning properly, get out of the hospital, what kind of what kind of life are you going to have after that? And so bystanders recognizing early warning signs of cardiac arrest, calling 911, getting the chain of survival in action. And if they have an AED, and we have a great save story from one of our clients in Nashville, as a law firm on like the 22nd floor of a building.
Yeah.
I don't know, a month before, one of our instructors had taught their CPR class. They had purchased an AED. One of the partners said he was going to go home early because he wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
Last thing he remembers is pushing the button for down.
Oh, no.
And he woke up and his coworkers were around him and EMS was there.
Wow.
And so he had cardiac arrest. They jumped into action. They shocked him, I think, twice before EMS arrived because you got to think downtown Nashville, response time, getting all your gear off the truck into the elevator up to the 23rd floor. He was awake right before EMS arrived. They were walking out of the elevator. And so, and he is around to this day. We actually had channel, I think it was 4. We presented awards to his coworkers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And seeing that gentleman walk around the office that day, I was like,
that's the greatest testimonial.
That gave me goosebumps because if not for his coworkers and that training and that medical device, he he wouldn't have made it. So
Actually, going on what you said, but my story from before, I remember we went to the hospital and everything afterwards, and the hospital told us that if we hadn't done that, it might have had a different outcome.
Wow.
And because we were lucky, the ambulance that got there was like lightning fast.
Really?
I mean, they got there so fast. Kudos to those guys. But I mean, they came over and they brought the defibrillators out and all that stuff. But they said we kept them going. I mean, we were doing compressions, et cetera.
Absolutely.
But they said it might have been a different outcome.
Because I mean, if you're circulating that blood, they say a well oxygenated heart responds to electrical therapy better than one that is not. So if you're giving it oxygen, and you're keeping that heart muscle and that heart tissue alive, it's going to respond to that shock a lot better. And so you guys were definitely part of that chain of survival that helped that gentleman,
that's fantastic.
survive. So well, great, man.
You're lucky. That's awesome. But I got to ask something about something you just said a minute ago. Have there been? It just blows my mind if you say yes to this. But have there been lawsuits of like people that have gotten saved or broken a rib or something?
Yes.
What?
Yeah, but it's been thrown out.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. I'm sorry. You saved your life. You want me to leave you there?
People, it's a very litigious society, right?
Yeah. That blows my mind.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, so somebody somewhere did that, so they had to make a law, right?
Right. Yeah. That's sad to think.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Just like in government work or if there's a rule, someone has done something, so they have to make a rule, so you don't do that again.
Yeah, I got you. Well, another question real quick, like on your classes and stuff, is this like the people that come in for the training, is it more, do you get people that are being more reactive as far as like, oh, something bad happened, I should probably learn this, or are they being more proactive?
It's a good question. I think it's a good mix of both. Unfortunately, some are because they have to be there because their licensure requires it.
Okay.
Let's say you're a healthcare provider who's been doing it for 20 years. You break that down, and how many CPR classes have you been to? And so some of them will never do CPR a day in their life. Yeah. Or it could be the brand new nursing student who has CPR her first clinical. Right. And so you just don't ever know. But we've also had a lot of parents, hey, we're about to have a kid. Actually, do you know Dre Curtis?
I don't know Dre.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He actually reached out to me. His wife was in MTSU's nursing program. She came through Code 1 for her BLS, but they're about to have a kiddo. Oh, okay. And he goes, hey, man, we got a kid on the way. I want to take your class. Like, here's our schedule. Sign up, man. Yeah. And he said, great. And so another thing with that CPR and AED awareness is relief of choking. Okay. Because that's a big deal because there are some differences there. Knowing how to relieve choking from an infant, a child, and adult. Children and adults are generally the same. It's the infants that are a little bit different. Okay. The children, the infants, you want to do the back blows and the chest thrusts. Okay, got it. Whereas an adult, you can do, they used to call it the Heimlich maneuver, and it's called abdominal thrusts. Okay. Until you get that object popped out. Yeah. And so that's a big thing there. Parents or new parents, want to learn how to, because kiddos put everything.
Yeah,
they find on the
everything.
floor in their mouth. And
Here's a Lego. Wow.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
Here's a grape or a hot dog.
Yeah, no kidding. I got you. So you said it's not the Heimlich anymore, right? What did you just say? Was
abdominal thrust?
Abdominal thrust.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I've seen that in action.
Have you?
Before? And the 2 times I've seen it, they got it out. They got it out.
So
yeah,
it's amazingly effective.
Yeah, one was a tiny little old lady, and
really,
it just taken too big of a bite of food, and a gentleman came over and
Popped
just
it right
literally,
out.
I think it was two times, and
wow,
it right out. But
that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
love hearing that stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm curious on another question, if you don't mind. This is more of a personal thing, right. But just random fact about me. A lot of people don't know this, but when I was 12, I drowned. I actually died, and I actually saw myself. Yeah, yeah, I was literally floating away from my body on the side of a pool. Jeez. And I had EMTs around me, and they were compressing, and they were giving me mouth to mouth and all that stuff. And from what I was told, I didn't have a pulse for about 20, 30 seconds, and I wasn't breathing, and they did everything, and I coughed up a bunch of water and then started breathing again. But you ever have anybody tell you stuff like that? You ever have any stories like that?
No, I've actually performed CPR on a kid we pulled out of a pool, and she made it.
Yeah.
But I can't say the out of body type thing. Yeah. That's interesting.
I was just curious because I've heard other stories from other people, and they describe very similar things. And so,
I've heard those stories. I have not personally yet, but I'll tell you what, though, on some crazy scenes, I feel like I'm floating out of my body watching the scene. Yes, because I mean, you almost kind of detach, like you said, everything slows down.
Yep.
You either have fight or flight or stay in play. And so, some of the scenes, everything kind of slows down, which I think is a good trait, because if your mind is going in a cyclical thing where you can't decide, you got analysis paralysis. If you can slow it down and say, hey, this is what I need to do, and logically thinking, an algorithm, that's exactly why this stuff speaks to me, because everything's in a very, easy algorithm. If this, then that. If that, then this.
I got
you. I think it's a pretty good trend. Mm-hmm. So I think it whenever emergency happens, I think you find out what you're going to do. So
then you've been a trained professional for so long, and you were just saying everything kind of slows down, obviously adrenaline kicking and everything. But is it more? For lack of a better term, is it easier now than it used to be for you?
Yeah, in the moment for sure, because it becomes very clinical.
Okay.
I know what needs to happen. If you know the pathophysiology of certain disease processes or emergencies, a buddy told me one time, air goes in and out, and blood goes around and around. Anything opposite of that, you need to fix it.
Okay.
And so if I drill it down to that simple, basic terminology or thought process, I know, all right, if they're not breathing, this needs to happen. If they're bleeding, I need to do this.
Okay.
And so, and it's very easy. Now, don't get me wrong, I may look calm on the outside, but in my, in my head, there's, it's like running around with my hair on fire.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things going on certain calls.
Yeah.
But from experience, like you said earlier, being doing it for a while, you've seen quite a bit, but you've also had lessons learned, passed down to you from people who've been on the job a long time. And so you can kind of, like my paramedic instructor, it's weird. We'll have certain calls, especially cardiac events. I can still hear his voice in the back of my mind telling me what to look for.
Yeah,
so he was an amazing instructor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I can slow down and hear those voices. But it is easier, but it's after the call that sometimes you're like, all right, let's talk about what happened.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of do your after action review, and you can kind of figure out, all right, this is what we did good, this is what we could have improved on, and let's do this next time. Yeah. But to simply answer your question, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, I got you. Well, and this is. Excuse me. This is one more personal question for you, and if this is a hard question, I apologize. But I'm just curious. Like, you've been doing this for so long. Mm-hmm. You've obviously saved a lot of lives. You've been on a lot of calls. You've trained a lot of people. You ever have moments you just go home and it just really hits you, like things weigh on you real heavy?
I'll tell you this. Nothing used to bother me until Hannah started driving.
Okay.
And so, interstate calls. Bad wrecks.
Got it.
Because nothing ever used to bother me until she started driving, and I don't know. I guess it was the knowledge of what happens on bad wrecks.
Yeah.
And then knowing now my kid is in that mix, and there's a potential there.
Oh wow.
And so now whenever I'm on duty and there's a wreck around our side of town, I'm immediately checking on my phone to see where she is. Yeah. And so I'd say, if anything, that's probably bothered me the most. There's been a handful of calls throughout my career that take a little longer to get over than others, but I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
An old paramedic told me, he said, Carl, he said everyone has their expiration date in this field, right? And the amount of calls.
Yeah.
He said yours may be 1,225, mine may be 220.
Okay.
You just don't ever know until you get there.
Yeah.
And we've had guys retire after a bad call.
Really?
They're like, you know what, this is it. And more times than not, it has to do with kids, right? Because kids pull at everyone's heartstrings, mine included, especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to have kids for that to bother you, but when you do and they're the same age group, you go home and it's like you almost see your child in that victim. And so
puts it in perspective.
That's harder to detach from, but you have to, because, I mean, you're no good to that victim if you don't.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's a cumulative process, over 18 and a half years of responding to a lot of medical calls, particularly bad car wrecks.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see, certain body parts that are in unnatural positions.
So
you're like, that's not, and that's easy to fix, right?
Yeah,
but still, that's something that you see.
Yeah.
But
that's
kids,
not right. No.
That doesn't go there. It needs to be straight. And
I gotcha.
But kids, I'd say for any medical professional is going to be the hardest thing. But I try not to bring it home. Because, I mean, you try to talk to that with someone who's not in the field, and you're not going to get it.
Yeah,
right?
No, I totally get it. Yeah,
and that's where the camaraderie of the after-action review, we sit down at the kitchen table. It's like, all right, guys, this is what happened. How's everybody feeling?
Yeah.
And that you have an open line of communication with each other. Because, I mean, again, everyone's mentality is different.
Yeah.
It may not bother me. It may bother you.
Yeah.
You just don't ever know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, man, I know you have to run here in a little bit, but I really, really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you,
especially after our talk, with Damar Hamlin and everything that happened there. I mean, this is for those watching and listening. Be proactive, not reactive on something like this. And like we were using my example earlier, I was so lucky that I happen to know that.
Absolutely,
I would, maybe that would have been different, but. We don't always have a Karl behind us, help, so in this case, Karl can train you.
Yes,
so,
we can. Yeah, we've got some really squared away instructors. And just side note, I saw before I came in here, the trainer that performed CPR on Damar Hamlin is being nominated for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they want to induct him because he was Johnny on the spot. He essentially, it was a team effort, of course.
Yeah.
But those guys being recognizing that he needed CPR, and I made a post after that because I kind of hesitated. I waited a couple of days because I didn't want it to seem like we were trying to quote unquote be capitalize or be indifferent or tone deaf to the situation. But a lot of people are like, the medical staff is like, anybody could have done that.
Yeah, that's
the beauty of CPR is that anyone can be trained in it, anyone can perform it, and anyone can slap an AED on someone. And potentially save a life. And that's our biggest, the biggest takeaway. If you get anything from today, is that anybody can be that hero per se. You can make a huge difference, be the difference in someone's life. It could be a family member, it could be someone you don't know, but CPR and AED use, man, it's extremely easy, and we'd love to teach you how. So
that's awesome. Well, on that note, if people want more information, where can they find you? How can they sign up for classes? All that.
All right, so we're on the web, code1safety.com, or you can call us at 615-801-0801.
Nice, and you're off South Church Street,
yes, sir. South Church. Yep.
Gotcha. Do you, what days are your classes usually?
Monday through Saturday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so Saturdays are just generally the morning time.
Okay.
But Monday through Friday, we have some in the morning, some in the evening. I think 1 or 2 days we have them midday. Yeah. So we have a wide range of classes to kind of fit anyone's need. And if you have a particular scheduling conflict, we've done one-offs before.
Okay.
Let's say if you've got an emergency, you got to have it by yesterday, we can get you in. So,
okay. How long is the class usually?
It depends. So your BLS classes are usually about 3 hours. CPR, First Aid, and AED for general public is about 4.5 to 5 hours. But CPR and AED only is about 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, everybody watching and listening, be proactive on this.
Yes, sir.
We'll put his Karl's info in the video description, so make sure to check him out. And we're gonna find time for me to come down.
Hey, sounds good, man.
And I told you, it's been a long time. I need a refresher. This is, and plus, obviously, things have changed quite a bit. So awesome. Well, thank you, Karl. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, man.
Oh yeah, it's always a pleasure. And come back more often. It's been so long since I've seen you. Gosh.
I'll come back. We'll talk about something else next. Fire extinguishers next time.
Okay. Hey, we can do that. That's totally cool.
All right.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, as always, thanks for everybody watching and listening for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one.